boy, what you watch? Look what you watch. Know what you watch. Choose the right thing to watch. And this enough to watch. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gag on Facebook and YouTube. And that enough to watch. The movie star fly take off from Palpatine TV said that. Boom!
A big sound a play a big tune.
Ja oli Emmanuel I boy. Ja Gideon I'm a Gideon. The Gideon I'm a Gideon. The Gideon I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther and the ancient monarchy where come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head. I listen, I see, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, no devil philosophy. Not until color of man's skin is of no more significant well to the color of his eye. Remember all the war done in 1935. Mussolini tried to invade Haiti.
Blue, Mr. Gargan, blue. Blue till me dance up me toe.
Up and running, up and gunning. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV, Keith Gargan. Up, cassava, passava. Mind over matter. Yeah, man. Mind over matter. Anyway, people, I really want to deal with today is a thing me see other day. Sitting of the House of Representative, right? And some things are going on, boy, me I tell you, Prime Minister come out with fire in his belly. And of them few things I want to look on. Three things, people. The Prime Minister come out with fire in his belly. Said Bunny man, all them things, and, you know, entrepreneur, career, bloggers and things like that, or politician, bloggers, whatever. I tell lie, I spread rumor upon him, and it burn him, and him go there and him blah blah and him rate and tate, right? You know, and you also have this hypocrite man too as well, you know. You have how much people escape from jail other day? 8 person. And then come in a parliament and then want to say one thing about that. Just imagine that, you know.
And that get me blood clot, ras clot, vex.
You know, people with all different type of charges, you know, rape, murder. And them escape, and this prime minister come attacking bullshit about job subscription for MP. You see them say people fucking idiot. This man come out at the first thing him say, you know, and him campaign before him be a prime minister, you know. And when him be the prime minister, him thought that in him fucking people have MP, all MP have to have a job description, so they have to do the right thing and blah blah rating and lily and all of them things there. I mean, I tell you so well, and I see that I try if people just do damage control, you know. He might repeat himself look like an idiot. Because he must run out of steam. And he repeat himself over and over. Because all of them things I do now. Now he's I got 8 years in him fucking primary ship. And all of them things are supposed to be done in 100 days. You're talking about reform of election, set time to call an election. And all now, job description for all MP. And all now, right? And all of this bullshit him come to talk about, he want to finish up certain work in 2 years. Them have a plan because they want to do some sweetening things near to election and check say the people are going to fall for that again. But you have a lot of fucking idiots out there will fall for it too, you know, but this time it's not going to really happen because people are get wise up. Believe you me. Yeah, man. 8 people escape from prison, from jail. Dangerous people on the street right now. And none of them are coming to the parliament today. You have Oriel Strong have him like a speech, and he must say nothing about that. So then I talk about crime completely. All them talk about Zozo and fucking underpay the police them, overwork the police them, stretch them and things like that. I'm not working. And then I talk nothing about what go on in the country pertaining to crime. Just imagine that, Them about this opening Senate today. And then I address that. The 8 man where nobody knows nothing about that. And you have the rascal Minister of Security, Sleepy Chang, come make a statement as well, and I said nothing about that. Prime Minister I said nothing about that. Juliet Wallace, Prime Minister wife, I said nothing about that. And for even a more extent, Mark Wall never said nothing about that neither. Him shouldn't raise it. Him shouldn't raise it as a special need of, concern. Yeah, he should raise it. But no. So you see right now, can you take these people serious? Can you take these people serious, people? Boy, it not pretty. It not pretty. And then you have Mark Wallen, have a like a squeak at it, at the bottom, or the end. And the man just look on the two person individual. Look on the fire when Andrew Wellness belly and I come out of his mouth and the aggressiveness, the boldness, right? Compared to Mark Golan. Just come out and soft like a chicken, nothing there. How can you really fight to really win an election? Or see it, the people and really see you really have the guts. That's what we look for, right? And it's not there at all. The man just soft. I say, well, I set him to do that, or him is it with him are in it with them. That's the only conclusion we can really come and said they are all in it together. He don't care about, he's not interested if you win an election or nothing. He just pretending because them getting paid. Right? Because he's not doing nothing, people. So if you look on the two person, the Prime Minister, where he's the man of the day, I mean, I'll call him man because, man, so I don't want to pretty up nothing. The guy, the little liar guy of the day, little liar Prime Minister, okay? Liar, wicked Prime Minister. And then you have the opposition, we're supposed to stand up for the people when things go wrong. And this guy just coming like a chicken, right? And then look at this guy named Ligel Clark now. Mark Wallen a talk, and then he come talk about a pint of water and try to say something. When he come at him lie. Because he must say something and he must a baffle, kind of just want to interrupt the man and things like that. And he just lie and tell lie. And the argument we make don't make no sense. Just look at that. And you also notice when the Prime Minister is on his feet and attack him all for bangarang and fuckery and liarness. Nobody from the PMP side get up and talk about a pint of water and interrupt. None. So what me I talk about, them all in it together. Just watch the space. Look careful in the man. Yo. And go back to Mark Wallen again. Mark Wallen in the middle of his speech when him really come back, Anyway, he might talk about job description, right? That's what I deal with, job description. And that job description where I deal with, people. From when I campaign from the first 2016 election, he might talk about job description. And that was a big con, okay? It never implement that, implement the fixed election date, implement nothing. And now he come now, when we not see 78 years in a premiership, he go talk about job description again they implement it. And look from when him talk about that from 2016 when my 15 when my campaign, right? On the campaign trail. And when Mark Golden do now, come with a, like a little baby, powder baby. I come to about, oh, the Prime Minister say I'm gonna deal with job description, table, and that is a good sign. What the Rastafari this man talk about? That's a good sign. For the man come and beat the man and say, what you talking about? From 2015, you talk about job description and now 8 years, going 8 years on now you're gonna come to about and you are like yeah petticoat up that brother. So that's why I may go back and say, that's why I go back and say, I may try to say that, them people know what go on, Them not them unite together. Them get some of the spoils. Them not really serious to go in a government. Them just want this government to just do what I do. This government imply and do what them do. And imply them fucking shit. Like the NIS, the cashless, mash up the country, the constitution. Because PMP don't want to deal with that. Them just want the Labour Party deal with that and get that out of the way. And when for them time come on again, because the whole of them unite together, it come on again now, them boom. Them just say, well then, it's there already. I know them do it. So them can't do nothing about it. But when them was well behind it, people, them was well behind it. Don't make them fool, We are talking about and do as a can and a fool way. And not just him alone. They all in it together. And that's what we can say. If people don't see that, no party can work for the people and just sit and lay back like that. These people are get out there. You see them, one of them keep quiet on the PMP side. They will get the razor pay and them take it, them glad feet, Because that's what them do. Them pay themselves. They make sure say them get a good pay. Because them well talk about this already. So PMP not gonna interested to win the election. Them gonna definitely, this is gonna be like, a fix. You have fixed match. You have fixed fucking football match. You have man who let in goal. Cricket are the same thing, fixed cricket. A lot of people get fined and pay a lot of money. That is something we're live and kicking, So these are fixed. These people fixing the election. Right now they want the Labour Party stay there. Them will try to make the Labour Party stay there. That's my belief, Well, if me wrong, well, but me I thought this openly. Me just see that's what me see it. Them not interested to win the election. They just want to be there, get good pay, and them know them get them benefit and them get them money because them all want the country to go down that way. Them not much different from what I go on, Because remember, all I want go on needs the on the table long time from the PMP days, but they never implement it. But this are the man who come and implement it, right? So them not really fight it down too tough. Them pick around the fucking edges and blah blah and things like that. So people, they are not to be trusted. They are not to be trusted. That pure crap. Not to be trusted. The only person who stand up and say and do a little talk when not too bad, but our voice is so fucking low. Everybody like them afraid for the Prime Minister. Voice low. Nobody not really have no fire on them like Portia Simpson and Patterson. And even to the like of even Peter Phillips. Yeah, man, them people are just really... Because when we say I go on the PMP, just want to make Labour just go and run the thing. Because them in the same boat together. Them all have money. Them live uptown. Them in the society. Them is a fucking large people. And all these things. Them know everything. Remember that. So... Them gonna go on and go on. When PMP come back in the power again, it's not gonna be PMP, it's gonna be Peter Bunting Party, Unite. And the same Mark Golden. Them are the head of that Unite Party. Them break away from it. They want to disband the fucking PMP party. This is what the guy want to do. So them do anything. And then when they come around now, people forgot about that shit. And then come with the Unite Party because that's how Jamaica people stay. They forgot about things. They don't keep them rascal momentum up all the while. Them drop them blood clot, yeah, drop them standard. You know what I mean? And that's how go on. So you up now. It's gonna be a sad, sad story. But at that, I just that's how me see the thing I go. Because there's no way a opposition leader supposed to be so soft and just quiet. And when him even do talk, it's like a little chicken or a little baby attack. Compared to the opposite side, the man have fire, swinging him hand, pointing him finger, tap him vice. And that's how politician behave, you know. But when the other side just really just cold and lukewarm, how it gonna work? How it gonna work? You can't be no see no other way beside it. Them setting up a plan, them setting a trap, and I'm going like them really fighting, but they're not fighting. Them gonna just loud labor right will win again. Any means. That's how me see it. Because there's a plan. And people want to just watch this space. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, let's go into this video now and see what's going on. And you can see what I'm trying to say. Just look when Nigel Clark intervened with a pint of order and watch the baffling and the lie. Him can't hardly talk. He don't know where I'm going to talk, but he just want to upset that man flow. That's how him do all the while. Right? And just watch the body language of Mark Golden and the speech him again, and how him quiet and how him soft and look like a chicken. Just watch everything, people, and compare to Andrew Wallace, the crime minister. What me say? The crime minister, compare to him. How him swinging. Yeah, people.
My granny used to tell me, say, if you no go under fall rules, fall can't shit pan you.
Madam Speaker, I intend to table today in this honourable House a green paper and a ministry paper containing job descriptions for members of Parliament and for ministers of government, respectively. But before I table them, Madam Speaker, I want to set out the broader national context of what this government is doing in terms of the reform of the public sector and the public bureaucracy. Madam Speaker, I can say without equivocation and without fear of contradiction that this government has undertaken the most ambitious and far-reaching programs of transformation and reform since our independence. Madam Speaker, fiscal and monetary reforms, including work to establish the Fiscal Commission and the independence of the central bank. The only indication, Madam Speaker, that we need to show in this House is that our debt to GDP ratio is now at 74%. 74%. And I hear the complaints of the people, but I would like to say to them, Madam Speaker, your government is doing what is necessary to address the issues that affect you. But we do them in systematic, logical, cohesive, strategic ways that when the change happens, it lifts all ships in the harbor. Not just some are over there or over there. Everybody's lifted at once. That's why we do transformational reforms, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have reformed the financial management of public bodies. You know, Madam Speaker, 5 years ago, well, no, 10 years ago, a decade ago, before we took over, the government was always at risk of some fiscal shock internally due to a poorly run public body. Madam Speaker, when last have you heard of a public body being a fiscal threat to the government? We have transformed that. There are, I hear the leader of the opposition, there are institutions that could be. But, Madam Speaker, we have put in place the mechanisms to manage them. Madam Speaker, we just need to look at the Water Commission and how, for the first time, you hear that the Water Commission has turned a profit. Madam Speaker, we are transforming our public infrastructure with massive projects in new highways, local roads, water, sewage, and parks, without question. And in as much as we hear the complaints about the local roads, Madam Speaker, if the truth be told, no other administration has done the work that we have done in building and improving infrastructure. Because my interest is for the betterment of the people of Jamaica. And those who continue to feed into the common sense without leading with intelligence do not mean the people of this country any good. They do not mean you any good. It is only political entrepreneurism. So, Madam Speaker, in 2008, the Golding administration brought teachers, I want this to be on the record, in 2008, the commitment that was made in the 1990s, we took the decision to bring teachers up to 80% of market. We also started the process of the adjustment for the health sector, and that process was implemented in 2013. But you know what happened after that, Madam Speaker? The government had to implement a wage freeze. None of the previous adjustments that were made to salaries were ever comprehensive, and none of them were sustainable. In fact, due to the country's fiscal state, rounds of compensation adjustments were followed by rounds of high inflation, financial crises, and the implementation of wage freezes, which eroded the value of the increased salaries and made public sector salaries uncompetitive. So we got caught in a cycle. And that's why we are here today. This is the first time in our economic history that any government has substantially and sustainably adjusted compensation at the scale and at the pace being undertaken by this government. That is without contradiction, without fear of criticism. This administration has done that. Madam Speaker, regardless of what you hear about who is complaining about what, who didn't get this amount of increase and anomalies and all the attempts to mislead, the fact is that over $100 billion has been added to the wage bill to reasonably approximate market compensation. $100 billion. Now you tell me which other government has done that. You can talk about caring for the people. You can talk about you love the people. You can talk about that you're going to do for the people. But this government has allocated in its budget $100 billion of sustainable increases to the salaries of the public sector workers of this country. Not talk, action. Action. And what we hear, Madam Speaker, is who didn't get and who didn't get enough. But you know what didn't come out? How many people are now using their what you call it, the retroactive. You see, I didn't take any retroactive, so I don't even know what it look like. Buying cars, paying down on houses, making their, adding on to their house, increasing their savings. One teacher told me that she now can hire, Madam Speaker, she now can hire a little helper to take care of her child and mother, give her mother a break. These are some of the changes and improvement in the quality of life of the people, because the government has run the country so well that it can give you a salary increase without worrying that next year you're going to get wage freeze. And that is why, Madam Speaker, it burns me when I hear the nonsense that people talking. No other government has done that. And I stand in this parliament, Madam Speaker, and say, that all the lies and misinformation that is being spewed by the political entrepreneurs, that this government is not going to sit back. You hear what the member said over there? He said, oh, this sounds like 2015. Madam Speaker, let it be well known that this Prime Minister has the ability, anytime I feel to turn it on, to get back in the public domain and let the people know that we will not be misled. Madam Speaker, I was just ruling. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I was just ruling. Because while they are out there spreading lies and misinformation, we were busy working. Madam Speaker, don't worry about that. Madam Speaker, not only have we increased, I won't deal with that part of it too, because, you know, some people want elections. Don't worry. Careful what you wish for. Madam Speaker, not only have we increased the wage of the average public sector worker, but we have also improved, Madam Speaker, we have improved the human resource management system around public sector jobs and compensation reform. Long-standing inequities and anomalies have been or are being resolved. It is a painstaking exercise, and I know that some of our public sector workers feel that they are not being heard or that the process is taking too long. We must always bear in mind that in resolving the anomalies, we cannot create new inequities and complexities. Our public sector workers can be assured of our commitment to keep working through their concerns to reach a satisfactory resolution. Madam Speaker, the restructuring and realignment of public sector compensation is just the beginning of a multi-year journey towards improving the efficiency and effectiveness of both the administrative and political arms of our public service. There are those who hold the view that public service, particularly the political side of it, must be a calling, and those who offer themselves must do so without expectation of commensurate remuneration. There are others, Madam Speaker, who believe that there is no need to properly pay public servants, particularly politicians, because they will supplement their income through informal, opaque, or corrupt means. This is the commonly shared thinking that has driven our approach to compensating holders of public office, both administrative and political, in this country since independence. Where has it gotten us? Where? Are we any more efficient? Is our service any better because we have been paying public servants and politicians less? While we must acknowledge that these views are not without some groundings in our history and lived experience, there comes a time in the life of any society where we must approach the problem from a different angle and apply new thinking and perspectives. Madam Speaker, if Jamaica is to achieve its immense potential, we must change the philosophy that has guided our approach to public sector compensation since our independence. It is crucial to recognize the importance of professionalizing the public service through commensurate compensation and enforcement of standards, rather than relying on the altruism of the public servants and the chance that they will make the best effort in serving the country.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, Prime Minister, thank you for your presentation. The tabling of these two documents, the ministry paper dealing with job description for ministers of government and the green paper with a job description for members of parliament, is something which you had indicated would be coming, arising out of the furor which resulted from the implementation of the pay increase for ministers and parliamentarians. And we, for our part, are going to participate fulsomely in the discussion on the job description for members of parliament, seeking to further the quest for a transparent and clear description as to what members of parliament are expected to do, whether it be in their parliamentary duties or in their constituency duties, and what they are expected not to do as well. So I think this is an important exercise, and it will be very interesting to see how the draft that is in the Green Paper evolves through the Joint Select Committee. In terms of the ministry paper, obviously it's just been tabled and I've only had an opportunity to just flip through it. What I would say is that it does seem to contain largely general statements which are uncontroversial and not surprising. I haven't really seen anything that would suggest an embedding of an accountability framework within it for ministers with some performance metrics that obviously wouldn't be in the ministry paper but would be provided for, that would allow some measurement of performance. I'm not seeing that, but as I said, I haven't read it thoroughly yet. But I think that would be important for it to move beyond just a statement of principles or high-level ideas around what ministers ought to do and ought not to do, and to actually be something which could provide a mechanism for holding ministers accountable for their performance. Prime Minister, you mentioned some things in your presentation which reflect continuity across administrations. For example, the reforms to the Bank of Jamaica to increase its independence, to embed a monetary policy commission and inflation targeting. These are things which were agreed with the IMF initially. They weren't implemented at the time. They were deferred because there were many other things that had to be treated as more critical on the fiscal side, but were carried through with the support of both sides of the aisle and ultimately implemented in relation to the Bank of Jamaica through the amendments, I believe, in 2020. And indeed, the same is true of the Fiscal Commission. That is something that was agreed, that coming out of the EPOC experience, which was a voluntary arrangement, an innovation originated from the idea of there being a permanent institution to succeed from after EPOC had spent, when the IMF program came to an end, because the EPOC program or mechanism was really tied to monitoring the performance of the deliverables under the IMF agreement. That would never be a permanent arrangement, but the idea of there being an independent body to provide that kind of objectivity assessment, monitoring, and scrutiny was an agreed position and has now been enacted, and indeed the fiscal commissioner has been appointed, as I understand it. I'm not sure whether he has taken office yet, but will no doubt soon do so. Yes, building out the office. So and indeed the idea of a restructuring of public sector compensation was committed to in 2015 with the unions and has been a while coming, and it's a very difficult exercise and has now reached an advanced stage. And, you know, we had called for it from the announcement in the budget debate in 2022, I think it was. We had said, look, the principles of equity must dominate in how that restructuring was implemented. And in our view, that was not achieved because despite the 100 billion of additional resources per annum being spent on public sector compensation, the dissatisfaction with the outcome and the level of angst that it has led to is remarkable. And that is because large swathes of public sector employees, the rank and file, have not done very well out of the restructuring. When you take into account their net, what they're actually taking home, many of them feel worse off, or certainly don't feel that they've got anything near what they feel was justified. And it is in that context that the massive award to the ministers, in particular, and members of parliament, was such a controversial decision taken by the government, including the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister talks about courage in implementing change, but when the heat came from that exercise, he decided, unilaterally it seems, to modify the decision so that prime ministerial pay was taken out of the list of increased salaries. So I don't know whether that was courageous or not, but he has indicated that he hasn't received any retroactive. So apparently it was implemented as he said in relation to him, but not in relation to the other ministers, obviously. So, Madam Speaker, all of this, I think, makes it even more appropriate that the terms of reference that were issued to the consultants and the consultants' report, the Ernst & Young report, the EY report, that informed the entire approach to how the public sector reform was implemented and the decisions were made around how different elements within the public sector were to be awarded when the pie is being sliced up, ought to be released. And the Ministry of Finance's decision not to do so is extremely troubling. The idea that it can't be released because it's a draft really doesn't hold water, because it has been, the reform has been largely implemented already, and the report ought to be made public. The unions had asked for it during the negotiations. They weren't allowed to see it, and I think that was reprehensible. And at this point in time, to be told that
your flow, just on a point of order, that's not correct. With the greatest of respect, the report that's available, the report that is available, the Confederation of Trade Unions has been shared with them, has been shared with other unions as well. This is not a secret document. The headline that appeared in the newspaper, I saw that headline for the first time myself, in that the whatever transpired between the newspaper and the technocrats at the ministry. So this is not a representation of my. So I'm saying two facts. One, the document that's available was shared with the Confederation of Trade Unions and shared with other unions as well. And two, The request that was made was not usually, if they don't get through, they escalate, and it escalates and comes up to the minister, and they ask, hey, what is happening? This time they chose not to escalate. They just went and printed. And I saw it in the newspaper for the first time, like everybody else. I just wanted to add that to the...
A big sound I play a big tune.
Blow, Mr. Gargan, blow. Blow till me dance up me toe.
Jah holy Emmanuel, I boy. Jah Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther and the ancient monarchy where come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head. I listen, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, no devil philosophy. Not until level for man's skin is of no more significant well to the color of his eye. Remember all the war done in 1935. Mussolini tried to invade Ethiopia. The emperor, the whole of them want to conquer. But look what the man come and give them the answer. The emperor got Mussolini in him color and kick them with them Gideon boot a war. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon.